round of the bilingual dispute resolution competition. And I want to congratulate our teams for being here and thank our judges for really coming in and giving their time and expertise to serve as judges. And so as a way to recognize them, I want to ask them to briefly introduce themselves. And we'll start with the General Counsel, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alicia Kerber Palma, Consul General of Mexico here in Houston. I'm also a lawyer, as you are, and I also make my PhD in international law at the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico. So for me, it's a real pleasure to be with you, with young people really committed with the rule of law. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Al Amado, soy abogado, litigante y mediador y árbitro. Mi especialidad geográfica es Latinoamérica. Todas mis tareas actualmente se desempeñan en Latinoamérica y trabajo en temas de delitos transnacionales, incluyendo los fuertes, lavado de activos, trata de personas, y por una parte, y por otra, resolución de conflictos y temas de cómo abordar esos conflictos para buscar soluciones óptimas en distintos temas. También trabajando dentro de fortalecimiento del Estado de Derecho en Latinoamérica.
Thank you,
Un placer
Al.
estar con ustedes. Gracias.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes, soy Alfonso López de la Osa Escribano, director del Centro de Estudios Jurídicos México-Estados Unidos, Center for US and Mexican Law. Soy profesor de Derecho Administrativo y especializado en aspectos de derecho comparado, especialmente en México-Estados Unidos. Y especialmente me gusta promulgar y beneficiar la doble cultura jurídica y conocimiento del derecho. So, thank you very much for having me here tonight.
Excellent. Thank you, judges. All right, judges, I'm going to ask you now to turn your cameras off, please. And participants, I will do the same. And once I'll give you the go signal and you will begin. All right, teams, are you ready? All right.
Yes.
Good luck.
Bueno, pues muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros de nuevo. Hoy yo voy a hablar en inglés para el resto de nuestra conversación, pero sé que hablar los dos idiomas a la misma vez puede ser difícil. Por eso quiero avisarles que nosotros dos podemos hablar en inglés o en español. Así que si necesitan una explicación o clarificación, por favor, no duden en preguntarnos. So again, thank you so much for being here today. My name is Julio Gonzalez, and this is my co-counsel, Alexi Hinojosa. Today, we represent our client, Steve Thomas. It's been 6 months since the last time that we met, so allow me to refresh ourselves with why we're here. Steve Thomas is a member of the Acme family and has been for over 2 decades now. He's been incremental in the evolution and growth of the company over the years and is more than just an employee. He's an integral part of Acme's ongoing success. Steve Thomas recently relocated from Brownsville, Texas, a predominantly Mexican and Mexican-American region, to Houston, Texas. Though he received a 4% compensation adjustment, this increase did not reflect Houston's much higher cost of living or the excessively high cost of relocation. As a Black man in a predominantly Latino Brownsville facility, Steve Thomas understood that there would be a need for cross-cultural training. But even after relocating, Steve Thomas is still singled out and placed under a microscope. For example, Acme has placed an immense amount of responsibility and pressure on Steve Thomas to drive up production and increase revenue in a way that other colleagues of the same role do not experience. Additionally, Steve Thomas specifically was pointed out for his lack of engagement in diversity training, a training that might not even exist had Steve Thomas not previously demanded diversity and inclusion initiatives in our last negotiation. And unlike his colleagues who also expressed disinterest, was forced to attend a meeting with human resources. Meanwhile, Acme is offering other employees more junior to Steve Thomas promotions, while his former supervisor of the Brownsville facility, who has also worked at the company for less time than Mr. Thomas, has now been promoted for a second time to a position that now oversees Mr. Thomas's current position in the Houston office, despite the fact that part of Mr. Thomas's original conflict included the treatment he received from said supervisor. Despite Acme's reassurance that an EEOC claim would be unnecessary and that Steve Thomas's initial conflicts could be resolved through our previous negotiations, Steve Thomas is once again left trying to recuperate from the losses he negotiated in good faith that Acme would treat him with the respect he's earned in his 20 plus years with the company. Instead, Mr. Thomas is being continuously singled out and potentially retaliated against for seeking fairness the first time. Steve Thomas loves Acme and envisions the potential growth that both he and the company could achieve simultaneously. However, Mr. Thomas feels Acme may have crossed too many professional boundaries at this point to mend the relationship. And if he must, he is prepared to walk away, reluctantly, albeit, with what he's owed for, with his life's worth of dedication to this company. We need to treat this with the gravity that entails, especially considering this is the second time that we've come to the table. Mr. Thomas deserves reparations, not retaliation. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to my co-counsel who will express a little bit more of the interest that we have, that we hope to guide today's negotiations.
Buenas tardes. Como les comentaba mi compañero, estamos aquí por un caso de sumamente alta importancia y demasiada seriedad. El señor Thomas no ha sido respetado por Acme, honestamente. Estamos en nuestra mejor disposición, pero no podemos seguir con los mismos problemas. Si nos han llamado aquí para negociar, ante todo buscamos reparación para nuestro cliente y con eso Julio voy a continuar con nuestros intereses, empezando por sustentabilidad. El señor Thomas ha contribuido a la sustentabilidad de Acme a lo largo de los años. Ha apoyado su expansión y globalización como compañía, pero Acme no le ha dado esa misma sustentabilidad en su crecimiento como empleado y en su estabilidad financiera. Nuestro segundo interés es inclusión social. El señor Thomas es tristemente una víctima de un conflicto multicultural en una compañía que continúa expandiéndose a lo largo de muchísimas culturas y países. Aquí estaremos negociando las propuestas de Acme para promocionar la inclusión y el respeto cultural para todos los empleados y mejorar la relación de compañía y empleado. Nuestro tercer interés es compensación. Previamente, nuestro cliente ha intentado comprometerse con Acme para poder solucionar los problemas y tener una mejor relación. Necesitamos hablar de las diferentes oportunidades que el señor Thomas tiene que ser protegido y que ante todo Acme debe proveer lo que le debe a nuestro cliente. En general, nosotros buscamos sustentabilidad, inclusión social y compensación. Y con eso mi compañero va a hablarles un poco más.
Yes, as my co-counsel mentioned, our three interests guiding today's negotiations are sustainability, inclusivity, and redress. Do we agree that these are mutual interests that can guide our negotiations on both parts?
Yes, but if you could probably give us a word right now so we can probably get some insight on this. Okay, so first and foremost, good afternoon to everybody, both councils. Yes, indeed, this is a complex situation right now we're facing, and with that in mind, I would like for my teammate Carla to give you some insight. I think we can agree, and we must treat this in three separate issues. So, if you would allow us, we would very much like to speak about those three different issues, or how those issues could be handled. So, Carla, could you go ahead, please?
Gracias. Buenas tardes, abogados. Bueno, primero que nada, nos gustaría comenzar estableciendo que como Acme, una vez más, nos interesa genuinamente resolver esta situación y de igual forma volverles a reiterar nuestro compromiso completo por escucharlos, entendernos y poder llegar a la mejor solución para ambas partes. Para esto y para entender un poco más sobre la situación que hay detrás, como dijo mi compañero Diego, me gustaría unar y dividir los asuntos controvertidos a fin de volver a resolver la presente situación, a darle un fin un poco más objetivo y para llegar a una resolución que sea justa y equitativa, utilizando siempre criterios objetivos para ambas partes, abogados. Los puntos que quisiéramos discutir en el siguiente orden sería, primero, estamos conscientes de la situación, por lo mismo queremos saber por qué el señor Thomas se siente así, por qué el señor Thomas ha estado expresando ciertas inconformidades con varios compañeros de trabajo acerca de una supuesta campaña en su contra, que como ACME reiteramos, en ningún momento ha sucedido esto. Como sabemos, ha trabajado aquí 20 años, es un empleado que apreciamos, es un empleado que hace 6 meses negociamos con él y hace 6 meses se le recolocó en la sucursal de Houston. Por lo tanto, nos gustaría volver a entender esta situación, conocer más sobre los puntos de vista de Mr. Thomas y encontrar una solución viable. El segundo punto es que nos llegaron unos rumores y tenemos conocimiento acerca de una posible acción de represalia, la cual ha estado formulando el señor Thomas o que va a formular posteriormente, y en ese sentido nos volvería a gustar y nos gustaría volver a conocer los hechos, a saber qué es lo que está pasando y el porqué de esta acción de represalia y con qué hechos está fundamentando el señor Thomas para formularla. El tercer punto que nos gustaría también tocar y creemos que es muy importante para proceder a esta negociación y entender ambas situaciones, tanto de ACME como del señor Thomas, es saber qué está pasando en las oficinas de ACME en Houston. Volvemos a lo mismo, el señor Thomas hace 6 meses fue reubicado en estas oficinas y actualmente estas oficinas no han desempeñado las labores de forma correcta. ¿A qué me refiero? A que no han cumplido con todas las entregas durante los últimos 2 meses y en consecuencia ha habido una disminución de ingresos grave en ACME. Y finalmente, como cuarto punto, nos gustaría saber que a través de esta negociación, y el señor Thomas fue un vocal muy importante en la creación del programa de entrenamiento de diversidad y multiculturalismo, pero actualmente varios de los empleados de la misma planta donde el señor Thomas está ejerciendo una posición de alto rango han tenido una actitud de animadversión en contra del mismo, por lo que nos gustaría saber qué es este problema que está surgiendo, por qué se están surgiendo estos problemas y por qué se está sintiendo así el señor Thomas. Si en ese sentido, no sé si Diego quisieras agregar algo más a estos 4 puntos o dar paso a que entendamos un poco de más de la situación y por qué está pasando esto y qué hechos y fundamentos están sucediendo para poder reclamar estas represalias o todos estos hechos.
Yes, thank you, Carla. I think you've exposed those 4 bullets, which are primary to get to any negotiation. I would just like to add that these the transfer of, or the relocation of Mr. Thomas was his idea. We gave that to him. So we, on the past negotiation, we were very, I'd say, flexible into Mr. Thomas's demands. I think we met him. Yes, there is room for improvement, but I feel a lot that this feels like an accusation rather than a negotiation. So if we could probably just center our table, our discussions into facts, not accusations, I think we could probably work in a better manner. Thank you, counsels.
Gracias, abogados. Y ante todo entendemos lo que nos están comentando, pero para responder un poco a lo que nos dicen, sí, nosotros propusimos su relocación a Houston, pero nuestro cliente, el señor Thomas, sí ha sentido que ha tenido básicamente una lupa arriba de él, y que sus demandas realmente no fueron tomadas con la seriedad con las que se debían en términos de inclusión, en términos de que la compañía creciera con él. Me suena como que los intereses que los dos tenemos son los mismos. Volvemos, sustentabilidad, que creo que lo comentaron, inclusión social y por último la compensación, que es algo que realmente nosotros queremos hablarlo, estamos en nuestra mejor disposición, pero es importante sí tomar en cuenta que él tuvo algunos problemas y realmente es gracias a que la compañía no le dio el apoyo necesario para trascender de la ocasión adecuadamente y no tomaron en serio las medidas requeridas para su inclusión. No es tanto un acuso, es más, queremos platicar algo muy importante y de mucha seriedad para todos los que estamos presentes. Y con eso en mente quisiera que Julio, por favor, pudieras platicar un poco más de nuestro primer interés, sustentabilidad.
Thank you. Mr. Soria, I believe you asked for facts, so we'll make things clear. Mr. Thomas is a Black employee of Acme for over 20 years. He worked in a predominantly Mexican and Mexican-American region where he did not speak the dominant language. He was not a part of the dominant culture. And as a result, there was a lot of cultural conflict. Now, one way that Mr. Thomas sought resolution was a relocation with the idea in mind that Acme would also be restructuring their diversity and inclusion initiatives so that this conflict did not arise again. We're here in Houston now with Mr. Thomas, where he still continues to have issues where, as a result of his wanting to find some sort of resolution through those conflicts, is now being singled out by HR, despite the fact that there are other individuals who are expressing disinterest in diversity and inclusion initiatives. Again, is being passed up for promotion while junior employees are being offered promotions, and while his former supervisor, who created a hostile environment for Mr. Thomas, is now being promoted again to supervise Mr. Thomas's position on a much more regional level. So with that in mind, we do want to reiterate, Mr. Thomas wants to stay at Acme and grow in his individual capacities alongside the company as he has for the last 20 years. So the most important question starting off is, does Acme want to continue employing Mr. Thomas?
I'd say yes, for sure. But first of all, let me be very vocal. We at Acme, we do not hold the race of people against them. So I think it goes without saying that either if he's an African-American, a Caucasian, or a Latino, we don't give special treatment based on race. No, we discriminate, nor we have lack of respect for anybody. So you mentioned that it was certain individuals. So if Mr. Thomas could probably signal those individuals to us, we could probably take the appropriate measures. Now, on the second hand, yes, we want Mr. Thomas to keep working at Acme, but it does seem like he doesn't want to work here. We're more than glad for him to keep working here, but having or making up rumors and accusations inside the company doesn't really portray that he still wants to work here. So I don't know if Carla, if you would like to join me in some of the information with this regard.
En ese sentido, me gustaría preguntarles y conocer un poco más sobre la situación en el punto en el que refieren en por qué no se le incluyó supuestamente al señor Thomas y por qué su relocación presentó problemas. ¿Qué pasó en específico con los datos que nos proporcionaron? ¿Qué le hace decir eso? La verdad, no entendemos como empresa qué ha estado sucediendo cuando se le negoció, se le ha tratado de la mejor forma, se ha buscado que esté contento el trabajador, lo hemos recolocado, se ha implementado un nuevo programa sobre diversidad y multiculturalismo. Entonces, mi pregunta vuelve a lo mismo. ¿Qué hechos verdaderamente ocurrieron para que Mr. Thomas pueda decir estas acusaciones? ¿Qué sucede con la recolocación? ¿Qué problemas presentó para que todos estos rumores estén ahí con los empleados? Entonces, si me pudieran explicar un poco más para tener en mente todo esto en la situación, se los agradeceríamos mucho.
Thank you. Ms. Rui, am I pronouncing that correctly? Perfect. Well, Ms. Rui, I do want to clarify some things. I think we do need to be very careful with the way that we discuss Mr. Thomas's experiences at Acme, to use terms like rumors and accusations, because again, we're not here to litigate that. You know, we're not here to litigate any sort of employment discrimination just yet. We're here at the table with negotiations. In today's culture and climate, especially in today's socio-political culture and climate, we have to be intentional about the way that we approach conversations and topics with race and discrimination, especially as it pertains to Black individuals and Black Americans. So I understand that ACME does not purport these ideals of racism and discrimination. They may not, as a corporation, uphold these values in their policies or in their imaging and branding. This isn't about whether ACME wants to be racist, right, or wants to be retaliatory. This is about whether the actions that ACME are taking are having a retaliatory effect on Mr. Thomas, and whether he, as a Black individual, as a Black employee, in context where he is a cultural minority, is feeling excluded. So, as you all mentioned, you asked about what experience he's had that may have, made him feel this way. I do understand that you mentioned that ACME has a diversity and inclusion initiative in mind, and that is also one of the prime examples of the ways in which Mr. Thomas is continuously singled out. He attended this training as was mandated, but he was singled out for allegedly expressing disinterest, even though other employees also expressed the same disinterest throughout the training. So I do want to go back to a point that you mentioned, Mr. Sorria, that ACME wants to retain Mr. Thomas and that you're not convinced that Mr. Thomas wants to stay. Mr. Thomas has dedicated his entire professional career to ACME. This is his family. This is where he's grown and who he's become as a professional. So he absolutely wants to stay, but there are limits. There are boundaries, and especially in today's world, there's only so much capacity for a level of exclusion and discomfort that one can take and still do their job productively. So if ACME wants to retain Mr. Thomas needs to feel like he is valued at the company. So Mr. Thomas is requesting a relocation, a promotion, a raise of at least 6%, and moving expenses covered if he is going to stay with ACME. Now, we understand that Mr. Thomas's former supervisor, Mr. Gutierrez, is now our regional supervisor. Where is ACME planning on opening offices outside of Mr. Gutierrez's region?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Sorry, Carla. We have an office in California. There's also some projects to open offices in offshore. I think it's Costa Rica, Belize, and Brazil. But before that, I think we must discuss another issue here, or not an issue. Carla and I were, or one of the solutions ACME was proposing was to create a committee in the diversity multicultural training program and create a committee either of 3 or 5 persons. And we want Mr. Thomas to be one of those, either 3 or 5, the number is yet to be determined. So he would preside said committee, and he would have oversight of the functionality and development of said program. Again, this program would be created directly by the HR department. So I don't know if Mr. Thomas would like to be included in that.
Well, Mr. Sorria, I do appreciate that ACME is taking their initiatives to diversity and inclusion seriously, and that they're wanting to include Mr. Thomas. I think that's a really important step. But before we even get to restructuring those types of programs, excuse me, we still need to figure out whether Mr. Thomas is going to stay at ACME, right? Whether he, and like I mentioned, the only way that Mr. Thomas feels comfortable staying at ACME is with a relocation, a promotion, a raise of at least 6%, and the moving expenses being covered. So you mentioned some of the facilities that are being opened. Mr. Thomas's experience and skill set make him an ideal candidate to open a new facility. Is this a promotion that ACME is prepared to offer?
I don't think so. I would like to give word to Carla. She could probably further this this discussion, or on this point, sorry.
Bueno, licenciado Julio, creo que hemos sufrido un malentendido. En ningún momento ACME toma esto como un asunto que no sea grave. Tan es grave que estamos aquí, ambos abogados. Creo que no se debe de malinterpretar en ningún momento el tema de gravedad sobre una discriminación posible o sobre un sentimiento de un empleado. Creo que no es por ahí el camino. Ninguno de nosotros como abogados ni como ACME estamos por ese camino. Sin embargo, sí consideramos muy importante saber qué acciones como tal tomó ACME para que el señor Thomas se sintiera así, acciones concretas para ambos poder mejorar, porque bien no conocemos estas acciones, no conocemos estos rumores de los que se han estado hablando, no conocemos la posible acción de represalia que el señor Thomas pueda tomar o no pueda tomar por un presunto sentimiento, un presunto situación que nosotros no conocemos completamente, por lo que para nosotros sí es muy importante acotarlo, conocerlo, escucharnos de ambas partes, pero siempre con acciones concisas y con acciones basadas en la verdad, por lo que nosotros les pediríamos que nos explicaran qué es lo que está pasando, porque para nosotros sí es muy importante. No lo hemos escuchado que se ha sentido de tal forma, pero no lo hemos escuchado como tal. Diego, ¿te gustaría ahondar un poquito más en este tema que acabo de decirles?
Yes, thank you, Carla. I think we concur on that. So if you would please elaborate for us in like concrete points, which actions did ACME took for Mr. Thomas to feel disregarded in this way?
Sí, claro, abogados, estaré, como les comentaba mi compañero Julio, y como comentábamos al principio, basado en la relocación, desde que ha llegado nuestro cliente a Houston, ha sido una tras otra. O sea, con la inclusión, empezando por ahí, tuvieron el entrenamiento de inclusión y él fue el único que tuvo represalias en ese momento de que lo señalaran como que no estaba cooperando y todo eso. Aparte, la relocación, nosotros ya nos dieron, por decir, lo último, lo menos que se podía dar en nuestra negociación previa. Y con eso en mente también ha habido muchos cambios que ha tenido el señor Thomas en cuanto a que no se consideró el cambio de expensas al transferirse a Houston. Entonces, es importante que todo esto lo vayamos platicando, y creo que sí ha habido un quebrantamiento en comunicación, porque aquí nosotros estamos viendo los intereses de nuestro cliente, porque es muy importante que con estos temas de seriedad, donde él ha estado señalado y un poco confuso, nosotros podemos, como dicen ustedes, podríamos ir a litigar el caso, porque realmente sí hay muchas cosas que se han quebrantado, como ya les platicaba mi compañero, pero estamos en la mejor disposición de negociar siempre y cuando se tomen en cuenta los intereses de nuestro cliente, que realmente ha sido afectado basado en todo esto. Con esto, Julio, si me puedes acompañar, o no sé si tengas algo que decir.
Of course. So as my co-counsel mentioned, we're not here to litigate. If we want to pursue additional charges, if we want to go through, that's something that we can do through actual civil court. Right now, we're trying to reach a compromise between our client and your corporation to make sure that both parties are satisfied with the outcome and that ultimately we resolve this conflict. So first and foremost, you previously mentioned that you wanted Mr. Thomas to remain an employee at ACME, but one of Mr. Thomas's conditions is that he must be promoted to a new facility. You all mentioned that that is not a possibility. So I just want to clarify, ACME is willing to lose Mr. Thomas as an employee rather than given a promotion, correct?
En ese sentido, me gustaría considerar lo que la abogada Letzi nos estaba comentando. Entendemos que Mr. Thomas se sienta así, entendemos que nos menciona sobre unos gastos para la recolocación en Houston. Sin embargo, no nos mencionan qué acciones ACME ha tomado de represalia contra su cliente. Podemos dejar ese punto ahí, no lo conocemos, pero me gustaría más que Diego les pudiera unar en el tema en el que el abogado Julio está hablando.
Yes, thank you, Carla. Mr. Gonzalez, you mentioned that Mr. Thomas wants to be relocated. So let's be clear. One thing would be to relocate him, and a different thing would be to promote him.
Yes,
So,
Mr. Thomas is seeking both.
Okay, so he wants a promotion and a reallocation.
Yes, which is why I mentioned that his credentials make him fit for opening a new facility, and I asked if that was an option that we would be able to pursue.
Well, I can tell you right now that the relocation is a possibility. The promotion, I'm not sure we can comply with that. Carla, would you like to further on that?
En ese mismo sentido, concuerdo con lo que está estableciendo Diego. La recolocación es una posibilidad muy grande, sin embargo, el aumento para nosotros es imposible. Es imposible con todo el tema que ha enfrentado la empresa, que estamos a media pandemia, pero le podríamos ofrecer, y ya que nos conviene a ambos, es un puesto importante en el Comité de Diversidad y Multiculturalismo. ¿Para qué? Para que el señor Tomás pueda mejorar y pueda implementar las medidas que él considere pertinente para mejorar este programa y que todos nos podamos sentir más incluidos y con más multiculturalismo. En este comité también me gustaría platicarles, me gustaría que pudiéramos cooperar para esta resolución, en el que el comité se muestre de 3 a 5 personas y estas 3 a 5 personas puedan liderar este programa de entrenamiento para todos los empleados. ¿Estarían de acuerdo en el que al ser un programa de diversidad y multiculturalismo pueda haber de 3 a 5 personas para liderarlo? ¿Les parecería? No sé si, Diego, tengas algún comentario extra o alguna posibilidad sobre este punto.
Yes, I mean, just to be clear, and I will let you both counsel answer. What Mrs. Ruiz is proposing is yes, for Mr. Thomas to preside the committee. Either it's 3 or 5 persons, again, yet to be determined. So that's one of the first things. I don't know if Mr. Thomas would be interested, because why are we offering this? Mr. Thomas has complained about being singled out, being somewhat, mostly singled out, right? So we want to end that, and we want to keep incorporating all of our employees. And I think a great fashion to do that is through this committee. So I would like to know if both council would be in accordance, or would they concur about this point? And maybe after we receive both your response, we could probably move to the next item, which would be the possible relocation of Mr. Thomas.
Gracias, abogado Zorrilla. La verdad, en este momento consideramos que no se ha quebrantado un poco la comunicación. Nosotros no podemos empezar a hablar del comité y de todo si no sabemos realmente si se va a honorar la estabilidad financiera, la relocación y todo eso para nuestro cliente. Realmente nosotros no estamos autorizados para decir, ¿sabes qué? Sí, esto, vamos, todo. No podemos si no se va a tomar en cuenta realmente lo serio que está haciendo, los problemas que él ha tenido en la compañía desde antes de su relocación. Entonces, queremos saber desde su parte si realmente quieren que Mr. Thomas se quede, porque estamos escuchando que sí queremos que él se quede, ha sido muy valioso para nuestra compañía, pero no estamos viendo que tengan un poco de consideración en manera de su estabilidad, en la manera en la que hemos estado hablando sobre la relocación, la promoción y lo financiero. Necesitamos saber eso desde su punto de vista antes de responder cualquier otra cosa, abogado. Julio.
So to clarify, yeah, what Alexia is wanting to clarify is we already know that the diversity committee can only happen if Mr. Thomas stays at Acme. Mr. Thomas can only stay at Acme if there is a promotion on the table. Is there a promotion on the table? Are you authorized to make that offer? Yes or no?
I'd say no. A promotion, I don't think that's going to be possible.
Okay, so if you don't think it's possible, for sure you're not authorized to make that offer.
Well, sorry, if you could probably let me answer on that, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, the promotion, I don't think that's going to be possible. The relocation to a different facility where he will no longer be under the supervision of Mr. Gutierrez, which is one of his primary complaints. It is possible, yes. So I don't know if Carla, if you would like to further on this. Also, I mean, just before that, yes, Mr. Thomas has been a good employee up to a couple of months ago. In the past months, he has not performed well. He's really not giving his best, or not even his half best. So I don't see how he should be rewarded with a promotion. So Carla, if you would like to comment on this.
Sí, por ese mismo lado, el aumento lo vemos muy difícil conforme a toda la situación que ha pasado. Bien sabemos que si nos basamos en un criterio objetivo, durante estos últimos 2 meses en las oficinas de Houston no se han hecho todas las entregas que se tenían que hacer y por lo tanto en estas oficinas y consecuentemente en toda la industria de Acme han bajado nuestros ingresos, por lo que no consideramos que un aumento podría ser la mejor solución para los problemas que están habiendo hoy, ya que estamos tratando problemas más sobre diversidad y multiculturalismo, por lo que una promoción, nosotros, hablándolo directamente con Acme, no podría tener una justificación cuando en sus oficinas han estado bajos los costos, cuando ya se le había dado otra promoción. Entonces, creemos aquí, y volvemos a reiterar, que estamos ambos para buscar una cooperación, para hacer una negociación. Ambos queremos que Mr. Thomas siga cooperando en esta industria que ha crecido mucho. Pero para ello necesitamos que ambos lados cooperemos, necesitamos que ambos lados usemos criterios objetivos sobre la mesa y para que ambos lados podamos satisfacer nuestros intereses de la mejor forma. Diego, ¿te gustaría agregar algo más?
Yes, thank you, Carla. So just to be clear, I feel like the offer of the diversity and multicultural program was disregarded. That is still on the table if you consider it, I don't know, correct. And our offer would be not a promotion, but a relocation of Mr. Thomas to Arizona. So he would no longer be under the supervision of Mr. Gutierrez, which is one of his primary complaints. And also, I mean, being objectively about this, the living cost in Arizona versus Texas, I think that in of itself is probably a step up economically speaking. So I don't know if councils, you would like to further any comments?
Yes, Mr. Soria, thank you. So I do want to point out that you all mentioned that Acme is not prepared to offer him a promotion, but they are prepared to offer him a committee spot, right? To chair a committee, which is more responsibility, more work, free labor. So it's a large responsibility, especially for a company that is globalizing and that is having such conflicts. But his specific metrics don't make him apt for a promotion according to Acme. So I think we've pretty much established that Acme is not willing to compromise with Mr. Thomas or work with Mr. Thomas to keep him at the company. So I do think it's important that we discuss alternative options, which include Mr. Thomas leaving Acme. With that in mind, we do know that a precedent has been set where another previous employee received a 3-year severance package. So I just have a quick question. How long did that employee work at Acme, and what position did that employee work in? And then I'll continue after that question is answered.
Sure. Carla, do you have that number?
Sí. Actualmente sabemos bien que en Texas, por ley, no se necesita cubrir ninguna indemnización por despido. Sin embargo, Acme normalmente concede a sus empleados por despido 1 año de esta indemnización, por lo que podríamos negociarlo. Sin embargo, no sé si Diego quiera añadir algo más. Creemos conveniente que nos tomemos un receso para que también puedan comunicarse con su cliente y compartir con él todos los detalles que hemos estado discutiendo. Estamos felices de hacerlo y estamos felices de poder llegar a una negociación, de cerrar un trato conveniente para ambos y no sé si les gustaría tomar un breve descanso para que puedan contactar a su cliente y ver qué opina de nuestra oferta, primero de la reubicación a Arizona y también sobre el comité, para que pues podamos todos mejorar estos puntos y atacar directamente a todos, a todo lo que ha sentido el señor Thomas. Diego, ¿te gustaría aunar más en el tema?
No, I think I concur with you, Carla, that if both councils agree, we could probably take a recess of 5 minutes. That's okay.
Feel free to take, yeah, your 5 minutes. It's absolutely fine.
Gracias.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Hello?
are we ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we talked, Carla and I, and I think besides the relocation, we could probably discuss an increase in pay of 1%. So 1%, why? Because previously he had already been accredited with a 4% raise. So that would be leave him at a 5% total. So Carla, would you like to further on this?
Sí. Los puntos serían una reubicación a las oficinas de Arizona, sería un incremento en el sueldo del 1%, dado a, como ya mencionó Diego, anteriormente se le había dado un 4%, y a su vez ser el jefe del comité del programa de entrenamiento de diversidad y multiculturalismo. Si Diego no tienes nada más que agregar, nos gustaría discutir este tema y volverles a proponer que estamos aquí con la mejor disposición para cooperar, seguir aquí y acotar desde raíz el problema que ha estado surgiendo. ¿Cómo lo ven? ¿Qué les parece?
As we previously mentioned, we are not prepared to accept Mr. Thomas staying at Acme without a relocation and a promotion and a raise we initially asked for 6%. So if that's not being met, we did introduce the alternative of him leaving Acme because there has been a precedent that's already been set of an Acme employee who has been granted 3-year severance. We are requesting a severance package of 180 weeks following Mr. Thomas's departure from Acme. And we also do agree that the diversity committee, regardless of whether or not Mr. Thomas is a part of that, is an excellent idea for Acme. And I imagine that Mr. Thomas would be very appreciative that his colleagues would still be able to benefit from that. So just to reiterate, it was the promotion, relocation, and the 6% raise, or Mr. Thomas leaving with a 180-week severance package and the diversity campaign that you proposed. What counteroffers do you have to that if you're not willing to accept that?
Would you like to go ahead, Carla? Okay, so just to clarify, yes, the increase, as we mentioned earlier, would be of 1%, amounting to a 5% total. Yes, I don't know. What I'm led to believe is that Mr. Thomas would not be interested in forming part of the diversity and multicultural program. Again, this was, primarily created for Mr. Thomas. We want him to be a part of it. If he doesn't want to, okay, we acknowledge that. And the promotion, I don't think there's going to be probably part of this negotiation in particular, unless, Carla, would you like to comment on this?
Estoy de acuerdo con lo que estás diciendo, Diego. Si quieres, continúa.
Perfect. Okay, so, and we really do want Mr. Thomas to work here. So, we have to take a lot of consideration into this, but I don't think, again, that Mr. Thomas wants to be here, even though we're offering to relocate him for the second time to an office of his choice. The first one was of his choice. We're now offering a second option. We're trying to work with him, but it seems like he either gets what he wants or he's not gonna cooperate. So if Carla and I or Acme, we're more than willing to find a solution that works for him. But we have other employees. We have employees that have been longer than he has and at Acme. So we have to take that in mind as well. Why do we have to give him a special treatment or relocate him every time he wants, or give him certain preferences to him and not others? So our offer again remains in being first presiding the committee with an increment of 1%, because he of course is going to have some, just a little extra work, or not even work, because this is a committee. He's not going to be he's not going to be smothered in work. Secondly, move him to Arizona if that's a possibility for him. And then again, I mean, that would be our offer if he wants to stay at ACME. So if counsel, you would like to further this.
Sí, claro, abogado. A Mr. Thomas le encantaría quedarse con ACME. Él ha estado con ACME 20 años, pero no podemos nosotros aceptar el 1% que nos están ofreciendo. No es el 5% por decir que nosotros les estamos diciendo por toda la relocación, por todo lo que ha estado sucediendo. No estamos autorizados a dar el menos del 5%, porque ahorita nosotros ya estamos en un momento en donde Mr. Thomas ha sido ya un problema muy serio. Entonces nosotros estamos en nuestra mejor disposición de que él se quede, pero si no vamos a poder negociar algo justo para él, para que él pueda vivir, estar tranquilamente, pueda enfocarse en lo de la inclusión. No podemos pasar a eso si no tenemos algo seguro para él, para que él se sienta más cómodo dentro de ACME. Entonces, él realmente, nuestro cliente ya está cansado, compañeros. Y honestamente, escuchamos que quieren que él se quede, pero no podemos así. Necesitamos saber que ustedes quieren que se quede, por lo tanto, subir su estabilidad, o que se tiene que ir y necesitamos el paquete de severance.
So as my co-counsel mentioned, Mr. Thomas does have limits. He has tried to put in the work with ACME. At the end of the day, it seems clear that neither party is ready to settle on options for whether he stays. So with that in mind, we are willing and ready to negotiate his severance package and the steps that we're willing to take for Mr. Thomas to leave while reconciling the issue with ACME so that both ACME and Mr. Thomas are in good standing, and that we mend this relationship, because even if Mr. Thomas does have a departure, this is a company that he's dedicated his entire professional career to, that we continue to value and uphold. So as I mentioned, we are seeking a severance package of 180 weeks, the diversity program that you mentioned on the table. With that in mind, I know you presented your original offer, but your second offer was just a reinstatement of the first offer. So I am wondering if you have a countered modified offer that we can negotiate with, that we can be willing to move forward so that we all leave here with a resolution.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, just to clarify here, what we're offering is being head or part of the committee of the program. The second comes with a 1% raise, adding up to a total of 5%. And the other issue would be relocating him to Arizona, where the living cost is lower than it is in Texas. So it's really a compensation. He would be actually, or practically getting almost 6, if not 6. Again, if we've been very vocal about this, Carla and I, and if Mr. Thomas no longer feels that, or does not feel that this can work, we could probably start working with a severance package. If either counselor or Carla doesn't have any further comments, I would like to start the offer of the severance package. Again, let us remind ourselves that by law, no enterprise it's not their obligation to give any severance at all. So ACME does have a severance package of 1 year. So we could probably come to a negotiation with the severance package, but I can tell you right now that 180 weeks is ludicrous for ACME. Carla, would you like to probably make an offer in this regard?
Gracias, Diego. Bueno, la oferta y dicho todos estos criterios y sobre esta situación y pues la verdad apreciamos al señor Thomas y todo lo que ha estado sucediendo en la empresa, y creemos que también para él es una buena oportunidad para volver a crecer, para volver a trabajar y seguir con su carrera laboral, y pues tal vez no solo laboral, pero también personalmente, y irse por la puerta grande, como decimos acá en México. Podríamos ofrecer una indemnización de 1.5 años para el señor Tomás. No sé si podríamos aunar más en este tema, abogados.
Thank you, Ms. Rui. So I do want to just clarify that we're here at the negotiation table, right? Not out of obligation. If we were seeking some sort of obligated return, that's what civil court is for. We would proceed with the EEOC claim that you all mentioned earlier, right? That we also have on the table. And so this is about negotiation. This is about preserving relationships between Acme as a corporation and our client who has dedicated 20 years to Acme. Again, we don't think it's ludicrous to ask for 180 weeks because a precedent has been set. Again, not about obligation, about preserving relationships, and Acme has shown that they can do that. So we acknowledge your increase in severance package, and we're willing to settle for 160-week severance package. How do you all feel about that?
Yes. Well, there is no actual precedent. I mean, we were referring to one of a former employee of Acme, and what Acme does with their employees, it's a separate matter, because again, yes, this is not a court of law, but we have to be objective about this. So we're showing good faith and not only giving a 1 year, that is what we give to all of our employees. We're willing to give 2 full years to Mr. Thomas in the severance package. But does come with a NDA and a waiver.
We acknowledge your offer, Mr. Sorria, and we do think that 2 years is something that is doable in terms of the severance package. We do not, however, agree that 2 years is doable with an NDA or any sort of confidentiality agreement because Mr. Thomas does not feel that the 2-year severance is adequate to support his needs and to really mend, the conflict. So 2-year severance package we're willing to take without the confidentiality agreement.
Okay, we're showing good faith. We're going above and beyond. I don't see why Mr. Thomas can't really see reason here. And so what would Mr. Thomas probably, because 180 weeks is definitely out of the question. So we're getting somewhere gladly to the 2 years. So what would be some wiggle room for that number?
So for the confidentiality agreement, we would need 160 weeks. If you want that confidentiality agreement omitted, we would need 160 weeks. And 160 weeks, and we will forego the confidentiality agreement. 2 years, and we can't take 2 years with the confidentiality agreement included.
Carla, would you like to comment on this?
Creo que todos estamos en la misma página y realmente les expresamos que para nuestro cliente, y también creemos que para Mr. Thomas, es fundamental resolver definitivamente estos asuntos. Creo que ambos hemos mostrado que tenemos un fuerte deseo de dejar esto atrás y seguir adelante con los términos que pudiéramos llegar a acordar. Y de verdad estamos felices de estar aquí tratando de negociar para que ambos podamos dejar esto atrás, que creemos que no ha sido una situación favorable para ninguno de los dos. Sin embargo, creemos que el 2% es una buena oferta, es una oferta que no está en el mercado, es una oferta que ni siquiera está en la ley. Es realmente no solo pagarle 1 año de indemnización, sino 2 años, que es algo que nunca sucede aquí en ACME, y nos gustaría también volverlo a platicar Y es así que como todos queremos que esto quede atrás, nos encantaría, discutirlo y ponerlo en un acuerdo de confidencialidad para que esto no tenga por qué volver a repetirse y que quede dentro de la empresa para que posteriormente tanto el señor Thomas se pueda desenvolver en su esfera profesional y laboral de la mejor forma como ACME. No sé si, Diego, te gustaría tocar un punto de lo establecido.
Abogada, si me da la oportunidad, por cosa del tiempo, la verdad, nosotros no podemos, ustedes ya tienen un precedente de 3 años con otro de sus empleados previos, no podemos nosotros dar la cláusula de confidencialidad si no tenemos algo para el señor Thomas. Creemos, usted nos dice, la oferta es muy buena para esta es una persona de la que estamos hablando. Él ha sido la víctima en todo esto. Entonces, buscamos si ya, o sea, nuestra oferta final es 2.5 años de severance y una carta de recomendación para nuestro cliente, estipulando que aquí se ha quebrantado la relación nada más porque no estaban en la misma página en el programa de inclusión y diversidad. Y eso es lo final que tenemos, porque ya lo hemos platicado y no llegamos a un buen acuerdo para los dos. Necesitamos realmente algo sustentable para los dos, regresando a nuestros intereses del principio.
Disculpe, abogada, perdone que tal vez me malentendió y malentendió a mi compañero Diego. No hay precedente como tal. En la información de nuestro caso, no hay un precedente de que a algún empleado se le haya dado 3% de podríamos mejorar la oferta y dar un 2.3 de indemnización a cambio de celebrar en un papel y poner todo para ambos, todos los asuntos controvertidos, nuestro acuerdo de confidencialidad y una renuncia de derecho a la acción de represalias. Creemos importante poner en papel para que esto no vuelva a suceder y para que ambos podamos irnos tranquilos, dejar esto atrás y ahora sí que poderlo solucionar de la mejor forma e irnos los dos por la puerta grande. Estamos conscientes que todos somos personas y tanto es así que queremos solucionarlo.
We agree completely. And in the interest of time, we see that we are out of time. So I just want to reiterate, our final offer was a 2.5-year severance with a letter of recommendation, no confidentiality clause, but we are willing and agreeing to drop the EEOC claim. We unfortunately do not have time today, but we are willing to meet again and hopefully flesh out the final details on our offers and come to an agreement that resolves all of this conflict in the best interest of both our client and ACME. And with that being said, we really do thank you for being here today. We know that it can be complicated over this type of digital forum, but we look forward to meeting with you again soon.
Thank you very much, both councils. And yes, I think we concur that we need to further these discussions. So thank you very much for the cooperation and your time.
Excellent job, teams. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you now to move yourselves to your team rooms for 10 minutes while the judges deliberate. Congratulations to both teams, and we'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hola.
Bueno, ¿cómo va todo? ¿Cómo es que soy el único juez que está en esta sala? ¿O quién está en esta sala?
Al, did you get the invitation to join the judges room?
No, I didn't. Or at least I didn't see it.
Okay, I'm going to move you back to another room and then back into the judges room.
Okay.
You should have an invitation now to join the judges room.
Let me see. Where would that be? I mean, normally it just pops up on my screen, but I don't see it popping up on my screen. Is it hidden somewhere, or?
I don't think so.
I mean, normally, literally, it just pops up like in the middle of my screen and it says join this or that. And I'm not seeing that. That's why I'm wondering if it's hidden somewhere, but I don't. I'm looking like in the chat and all of that to see if it's there, and I don't see it there either. Now, there is an option in the corner here to join a breakout room. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
There it is. I see judge's room. So let me go to that one.
There you go.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
All right, I think we have everyone. Congratulations again to you all. And I would not have wanted to have been the one who had to pick the winner. So I'm glad that we have some really expert people to do that. So I'm going to turn it over to the General Counsel, and she's going to make the announcement.
Thank you so much, Jim. It has been a pleasure to participate in this exercise, and we have made our deliberation. So I now will turn to Spanish. Ha sido un gran gusto participar en este ejercicio. Hemos deliberado y para nosotros el representante de la empresa ACME fue quien hizo la puntualización que tendría el punto de paz en este caso, representados por la Universidad de Anáhuac. Felicidades Diego Zorrilla y Carla Rue por su participación. Sirva este ejercicio también para agradecer a Alexei Hinojosa y a Julio González. También hicieron un muy buen ejercicio. Sin embargo, vimos también que hicieron todo lo posible por argumentar ambas partes, pero les queremos reconocer su compromiso en el respeto al Estado de Derecho. Queremos que sigan impulsándolos, seguirlos impulsando a que sigan estudiando Derecho y sobre todo a que se comprometan con the rule of law, the access of justice, because those are human rights that we need to preserve. And also congratulations for really making arguments committed in making inclusiveness one of the main topics of this discussion. So congratulations to ACME.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, General Counsel. I'm going to turn it now to Al Amado for his comments at this point.
Sure. Bueno, primero quiero agradecerles a todos por sus intervenciones y participación. Como mencioné hace una semana o 2 semanas, cuando nos reunimos la primera vez, este tipo de esfuerzos me parece excelente, que les da la oportunidad a ustedes de practicar las técnicas necesarias para representar a sus clientes y combinando este elemento de multiculturalidad en esta ocasión. Es algo que es impresionante ver cómo lo hacen, cómo lo desarrollan y el compromiso que han demostrado para llegar a esta etapa. Unfortunately, the world is sometimes cruel and harsh and we have to make decisions. I wish we could say both teams won, but I will say, having worked as a mediator and an arbitrator internationally, the skill level that I saw on both sides today is at least comparable, and in many cases better than some of the lawyers that I've seen represent clients in these types of mediation. So both teams were excellent, and I really sincerely congratulate both of the teams for your effort and your work, certainly up to now and in representation of your clients. And I'll echo the Consul General's comments that especially in the world we're living in today, to see this kind of dedication to multicultural issues and trying to find the rule of law and what is right and what is just in times that are very troubling is especially important. And thank you all for your commitment to that.
Al, thank you so much for those comments. Now I'm going to turn it over to Alfonso. He has a few final remarks.
Wow, what a final. Really, I mean, you didn't really make us things easy, I can tell you. What I'm more excited is that we are in front of amazing lawyers. Congratulations to the 4 of you. I mean, you have amazing careers in front of you. You will see, you are going to be masters of your craft. I have not the slightest doubt about it. It has been indeed very, very complex, very difficult, I have to tell you, to judge you, but thank you. Thank you so much for being here. You are tough. You are tough. I mean, this is something, but we are very excited from the Law Center at the University of Houston, from Blakely Institute, Advocacy Institute, and the Center for US and Mexican Law, of course, to see that you are really the paradigm of what we want to achieve in the education of our students. So really, thank you for being such an example for us, and of course, an inspiration for other students that I'm sure will be very glad to lead your example as binational lawyers that are going really to rock it in both sides of the border, because what we want is cross-border legal services lawyers that are able to work in both sides of the border. So thank you. Thank you to all the coaches that have been behind you all the time, supporting you and preparing you. Thank you to the judges that in the first round and the second round were also there for their, I would say, dedication and how thoughtfully they analyzed and they responded to every of the aspects they had to judge when they did that. I couldn't go further without thanking Dean Leonard Baines to be the promoter of this by BDRC. It's really amazing to see this as a reality, and also for the deans of the universities that join us in this pilot, right? Dean Alfredo Dagdud Calife from Anáhuac University, and as well Dean José Luis Cárdenas from La Salle University. I'm sure this is the first of many, and we will see that. I would like also to thank you all, my colleagues, my partners in all that, Karen Jones and Jim Lawrence. I can tell you, we worked a lot over this weekly. So we are very glad that it's a reality and that we are here. The University of Houston Law Center, Department of Marketing and Communication, Carrie Criado, that was also amazing and invaluable in helping us. Shouting out that this is what we want to do with the universities like yours, and that hopefully it could be, like I said, the first of many. And to Provost Short, whose support has been also indispensable, I would say, to start with this. And I'm sure we will keep on having many, many more. Thank you to all of you for being here, and well, see you soon.
All right, thank you, Alfonso, so much. Karen, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have any words at this point?
Felicitaciones por la negociación. Estudiantes excelente abogados.
Muy bien.
Very well. Very well done.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you all so much. Students, we will be in touch with sort of wrap-up details. Congratulations.